Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the BX Thief, basic Dungeons and Dragons Thief. I'm Daniel. This is Bandit's Keep. So I guess this applies to most OSR type thieves. Maybe even as far as second edition D&D. Maybe, although they had a lot of changes that came into play in second edition. And I actually got this question after I did the one about the magic user, because I think I mentioned a few times the thief was always my favorite class, and whenever I see people talking about the thief, and that it doesn't work or that nobody can play it and new players can't play it, I always just kind of think to myself, well, that's weird because I had no problem. I never thought there was anything wrong with the thief when I was playing, as a kid. Now, that being said, that's not a very good video to just say that. So let me try to explain why I like the thief, why I don't necessarily think the thief needs to be changed, and I think we'll talk a little bit about changing the thief if you don't want your campaign or if your adventuring doesn't fit what I talk about here. So I'm going to start off by saying, and I'll put in I'll put a link if I can find it again. Every once in a while I Google it and find this thing, but there was a gentleman named Robert Fisher. I'm not sure exactly when he did it, but it's got to be more than 5 years ago. He put up a series of articles. One of them is called something like "I used to think and now I think," and as a kind of a subcategory of that, he talks about the thief in Basic Dungeons and Dragons. And when I read that article, I read it and I looked at it and I said, yeah, it's exactly how I always thought about the thief, but it doesn't explicitly say that in the rules. So especially if you're coming from a later edition. So you're somebody who started playing, let's say 5th edition, or maybe you played other really skill-based systems, and then you pick up an OSR game and you look at the thief, you're like, well, they get less hit points, they can't wear the best armor, and they have barely any chance to do their skill. And I think that that's all fair. But I think the issue is not that they barely have any chance to do their skill. The real issue is that people are not treating the skills, in my opinion, how they should, as essentially extreme cases and not the only option. So what I mean by that is that if you, because this is way before my time, but let's say you go back to all the ways to the original books, right? The original 3 books. I'm actually doing something with that now, so I was reading them. And there's no thief in the original Dungeons & Dragons, right? But there were clearly doors and chests and traps and all these other things. So what did they do, right? So what you commonly see people talk about is this idea that the thief ruined everything because now nobody can find a trap because only the thief has that ability. But I think that's just not how you look at it. I think that we have to look at it like everybody has a chance of doing stuff, especially if they explain it properly. The thief has this chance of going above and beyond. So, for instance, if you were to approach, let's say, a chest, right, and the chest has a latch on it with a lock. If you have a fighter in the party who has a crowbar, or maybe they have the handle of their axe or whatever, you can break that latch off. You can open the chest. The magic user could use a knock spell. The cleric could take their mace and smash the latch, right? If you do those things, you can still get inside the chest, right? What's the downside to that, right? What's the advantage of the thief being able to pick a lock, which is a very specific skill, right? The advantage there is that it's quiet, right? And that you're not going to risk breaking anything inside the chest. It doesn't mean that if the thief fails that you can never, ever do it again. I should say you could never get into the chest. It just means you can't get in it through that means that would have been super easy. The same is true with locked doors. If you are building dungeons that have doors that are locked that people need to get through, you need to consider what they would do if they cannot pick the lock. You can't put a locked door there as a DM and expect people to get through it if the only chance they have is the thief that has a 15% chance. Like that just, they're not going to get through probably. You've got to have keys hidden somewhere. I think about old video games, that the old text-based ones that you would type in, they'd be like, you're standing in a field. You couldn't just do anything, right? So there was ways to get through things, and if there were doors, and if there were chests, and if there were secret areas, you had to find the solution somewhere in the game. And that's how I look at an old school dungeon, right? If you find a door somewhere, somebody's opening that door probably, right? So you can get through it if you find the right means, and the right means might be smashing it down, right? Or the right means might be finding the NPC that has the key, or searching through the dungeon and finding the area where the key is, finding the way through the door, a passage around it. Maybe the walls crumbled further down. You can cut through crawl through some rubble, and you end up in the same spot, so you don't even have to open the door, right? You need to make sure that as a DM, so I'm talking to the DMs here, that your dungeons are set up that way. Then the thief, when they can't pick the lock, it's not like, oh, you didn't pick the lock, now you like failed. Again, picking the lock is the ideal situation, and you can't do it all the time. It's a thing that you do once in a while that really launches the party forward, right? That ability is something really, really special and should be treated as such. You can't use it all the time, but when you use it, man, it saves time, it saves noise. You don't have to risk anything. There's no chance if there's potions, in the closet that when you smash the door open, that you smash the potions. You're not going to have that if the thief picks the lock, right? Finding traps. Everybody can search and find traps with the 1 and 6 in BX, like big traps. Only a thief can really find, theoretically can find the little tiny ones. But again, if you're not like picking the lock, then the little poison needle on the handle is probably not an issue because you're probably smashing the lock off anyway. So it's not even really an issue in that case. I think that, the thief's extra ability is good, but you can also, again, take precautions to do it. If you think the chest might be trapped, you can do, use your two-handed sword and flip it open from a distance. There's lots of things you can do. And that's where the role play comes in. I think that we have to look at this as if the game, as originally created, in my opinion, or as we played it, I should say, I shouldn't even say as created, because who knows, right, was about exploration. It's an exploration game. You're in these dungeons, right? You're looking for things. You don't always have everything right in front of you. It's not like you walk, you can pick the lock, okay, you walk through. That might not work, right? But let's think about a few other things, too. Let's think about hiding and sneaking and all these other things. If you think about a modern game, like let's say when I was running 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, in my group they had a rogue, right? And I'm pretty sure the rogue was some kind of demi-human, and it was a half orc or something. I can't remember. It was they had the night vision, or what they call it. So of course they were the one that was able to sneak ahead. They had a good sneak skill. They could see in the dark, right? So they sneak ahead, right? So the idea is that you're stealthing up on something. Hopefully they don't see you there. You go back and get the rest of the party. In a BX situation, it's more like your elf or your dwarf who has infravision and is wearing plate armor is the one who's actually going to go ahead. Yeah, they're not going to be as sneaky, but they can see in the dark and they're much tougher. You're not going to send a thief forward to scout for you in a dark dungeon because they'll have to use a torch. If they use a torch, they're not going to be able to sneak up. So no sneaking skill in the world is going to work there. It just doesn't work, right? At least the elf or the dwarf who's sneaking up always has that surprise chance, that 1 and 2 to surprise, right? So you have to rethink how you operate. The thief is not that person. They're not the scout to go ahead in the dungeon if it's dark. They can't see, right? That's just not their job. Where they're going to use the hide in shadows and move silently is going to be more like, okay, you're being chased, or you hear creatures coming, the thief jumps into a shadow and the creatures go by and then they can jump out and backstab them, right? That's a good hide place. Or they're infiltrating and maybe in a city adventure. That's where you might use it, right? Where there's there are lanterns and stuff burning, but you can find little pockets of shadow to hide in. And of course the move silent, same thing. You go into this room to steal the jewels from the queen's, off the queen's dresser, and she's sleeping there. So the thief wants to move silently as to not wake them up, right? That's where you're going to use this skill. And in any case, you always have the surprise chance. People have this idea, and this is actually not even true, as I know, because like I said, I've ran 5th edition for a while. This is not even true in 5th edition. I mean, if you fail your stealth or whatever, it doesn't mean that you made noise. It just means that somebody could hear you. So the way that I always do it is if you roll your move silent, you automatically surprise. Unless obviously you move silently across a huge field where they can see you. But what I mean. If somebody's not paying attention, you move silent behind them, you're going to surprise. You don't need to roll for surprise. You're going to surprise. If you don't succeed, it doesn't mean that you didn't surprise them. There's still that 1 and 2 chance that you could surprise them. So it's not like, again, the 10% of move silent might seem kind of low, but at the same time, they still have the 1 and 2 to surprise, which everybody else has. So 30% chance, right? Let's also consider this. If you look at, let's say now, so that's the thief's skills. I mean, that's the way I look at it. The thief skill that I think gets most underused is climbing. They have a super high chance of climbing, and if you build really dynamic dungeons, they should be using that all the time. They're going to climb up ledges, down ledges. They use the spikes and the rope to set up a way for the other characters to get up to areas they couldn't get up to. Right. This is where the thief's abilities really come in. To me, the climb ability is in dungeons, especially being able to climb is should be a major thing for the thief. And again, this comes down to, I know things are more difficult if you're running pre-made modules, excuse me, and you can't set all this up. But if you know you have a party where there's a thief, put stuff in there for them to do, just like I said about the magic user. Give them a reason to use the skills they have that are beyond, beyond the whatever, the backstab. Let's talk about backstab for a second, right? That's combat. Thieves have a D4 hit die, which is just like a magic user, right? So, right? They can wear leather armor, which is something, right? But they can't use a shield, so they're very much not fighters. Even though they can use every weapon, which is kind of interesting. They're not frontline fighters, not even a little bit. The thief is not for that. But think about it. If you're going to run a thief, you probably have a higher dexterity, which means that you're going to get a bonus with your missile weapons. So your thief should really be a back of the party-ish archer, and they come forward when there's a special task to do. They shouldn't be the scout up there by themselves. They shouldn't be charging into combat. That's not what the thief does, mechanically well. What they do well is missile fire, and they do these specialty tasks that they can do sometimes, right? This is basically where the thief is at. They level up really quickly, which is nice. And overall, I think the thief can be a really fun character to roleplay and to play. I'm not big on the idea of the thief picking pockets of people in the party and stuff. If you want to play that way, I'm just not into that. But the idea of like the thief being kind of like a specialist, right? They're just like a magic user. They're in the party for that time that when their skill does work out for them and you guys get through that door without having a problem, that's where the thief really shines. So a couple other things. I'll look at my notes here to make sure I got it all. Okay, so time before. This is what I want to mention. If you look at, because I just quickly looked again in the BX book, which is what I have right here. If you look at obviously you can build your own dungeon any way you want, but if you build it the way that they suggest you do it in the book, 1 and 2 in a room gives you a monster, right? 3 is a trap, which is a room trap, by the way, not a trap that only a thief could find. 4 is something special. 5 and 6, the room is empty. Okay? That means a third of the time you do encounter a monster, yes, but a third of the time there's nothing in the room, and a third of the time there's either some kind of a trap that anybody could detect or some other cool special effect. So if you really put your dungeon out like that, and you have 10, let's say you have 10 rooms in your dungeon, then you're going to have 2 or 3 fights. So the fact that the thief is not a master fighter, it doesn't take away from them 90% of the game. Well, I guess that would be 60% of the 70% of the game, whatever. It's not that they can't fight. They can certainly fight, better than a magic user in the sense they have armor and they can use all the different weapons. But they're definitely not fighters. And I think that if you run a game, well, let's talk about that right now. Let's say that everything I'm saying here is like, okay, fine, if you want to run your game like that, but I don't like a game where everybody has a 10-foot pole and they're exploring and they don't run into stuff. And I want doors everywhere and I want my thief to shine. Okay, that's fine. If you're going to do that, now you have to talk about adjusting the thief. And, I'm not sure I would adjust them combat-wise. You could probably give them a D6 for hit points instead of a D4. That would make a huge difference. Because, again, they're going to have high dex, which means that they'll have a better armor class. They'll have wearing leather, right? But they might have like a slightly better armor, so they might be as armored armor class wise somewhere around where anybody in chain might be if they have a decent dex, right? And they can use any weapon, right? So if you gave them a D6, they wouldn't be like the worst fighters in the world. That's for sure. That would be that part of it. But again, I think if you're playing heavy duty fighting type scenario, then maybe I would skip having lots of locked doors and I would just have people play fighter classes because again, the thief is not going to be a great fighter because their armor class is going to allow them to get hit all the time. And in BX, no matter how many, even a fighter or a dwarf that have D8, you get hit a couple times, you're dead. I mean, you're not going to be able to take a lot of hits in BX unless you're high level. So I wouldn't run a heavily fighting game anyways. So let's talk about the other situation. A game where there's lots of locked doors. You want to use your move silent and sneak ahead and use the thief as a scout that way, and you want them to succeed more often. There's lots of different ways you can do it. What I did in one of my campaigns, because people wanted to play thieves and they were like, "Oh, thief," is I allowed them to pick an ability that was like their specialty, and I allowed them to start at basically the 4th level for that. So that gave them a boost in something, and it made everybody a specialist. It was a couple of different thieves. One was like really good at moving silent, and I think the other one was good at locks. So one was like a scout. In their background they like made it up, and the other one was like, well, they said there was a locksmith. You could do that, or you could just boost everything up. But I think that if you, I don't know. I guess I have a very old school methodology of things. I like people to feel special when they succeed, and I don't think you feel special when you succeed if you always succeed. I really feel like that you need. I wouldn't give anybody more than a 50% chance of success, especially at low levels. And what I would likely do is I would boost the thief up. Actually, see, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to look really quickly. I have the basic book right here. Actually, so I bust open the basic book here. Let's look at the thief. If we look at the thief's abilities, I guess I can do it this way. You guys will see OBS if I do this. Let me just cover it so it doesn't look like a mess. Covering up OBS, opening up the basic book. All right, I can switch to my screen. Well, hopefully it's on my screen. I didn't actually check it. Let's go. Yep, there I am. Okay. All right, let's find a thief. Character class. All right, so if we take the thief, let's say we even made him start at 3rd level ability-wise. I mean, that's not terrible right there, right? I think, again, I think 50% is a little high. That's probably like maybe 5th or 6th level thief ability. If you do that, let's say that you go, okay, I'm going to start them at 6th level, because I think that I want my thief to be more powerful, right? I want them to be almost 50% on all the skills right off the bat, because they're adventurers, they're special, they should be able to do it. I would not then have them start at 6 and go up each level. What I would probably do is, let's say, go 6th level, and then I would find another appropriate spot, maybe 9th level, and I'd let them get all the ways to 4th level, and then I'd jump them to the next one. Because, again, I think that what you want to do is balance this out. You don't want your thief. It might sound like, oh man, you know what? It sucks that they're not good at 1st level. But then, if you give them too high of an ability score, all of a sudden they're 4th level when they have 100% at everything. I just don't see that as being fun. That's like putting the cheat code in, or whatever they call it in the video game. It seems fun up front because I can walk by, I'm opening up every lock, no problem. But after a while, it just, why? Now, another thing that I want to mention here, because I think this is kind of interesting, is one thing that I do as far as the locks and the traps sometimes with the thieves, especially the small traps, so you don't have to keep testing all the time. And this is, again, it comes down to how you want to play the game. You can just assume that the thief is always going to check for these things, and if they are there, then you roll. If that makes sense. So in other words, they're gonna check every single door they get to see if it's locked. They're gonna check every door to see if there's a trap on it. They're going to pick the lock if it's locked. So you don't have to actually, for 80% of the doors, you don't have to stop to do this unless you want to, right? This I'm talking about now in a game where you don't care about the exploration part. What you do is you wait till you get to a door that is locked, and then you say, okay, this door is locked. You don't make them ask and stuff like that. That's just one way to do it. Again, it's not how I like to do it. I'm more of a traditionalist. I like the way that BX does it. I actually, like I said, I'm 100% behind, and I play thieves all the time. I'm 100% behind the thief being fine the way it is. I'm looking at the ability scores, the scores now. So 15%, that's like a 1 in 6 chance, right? That they can open a lock. Right? Nobody else can open the lock quietly. So that's still a 1 in 6 chance that they can open that lock quietly with nobody seeing them, right? But your find and remove traps, again, is only 10%, but that's on top of anything else they might have already used to find it. And again, those kind of locks, and they should be rare, these kind of traps, I should say. The thief traps, like the poison needles, because they're probably almost always going to be deadly. You don't want to put a poison needle trap on every single chest. That just becomes aggravating. Pickpockets is 20. Again, it's not something I use a lot, so it's fun though. Move silent is 20, and again, that's on if they can move silent, they're going to basically surprise them. So they're getting 2 chances in a sense, right? Your climb share surfaces, like I said, is always good. That's 87 to start with. I mean, they should be climbing all over the place like Spider-Man. Hide and shadows, again, is only 10%, but and again, when you read that Robert Fisher thing, he talks about that. It's it's not hide, it's hide in shadows. It's an empty corridor with just pools of shadow. Nobody else could possibly hide there. The thief can. If there's crates there, and everybody says we get behind the crates, well, then they're hidden. I mean, you don't need to, nobody needs a skill for that. You can get behind some crates. And also, very important, especially in dungeon crawling, is they have a better hear noise than the other human classes. So they got a 1 and 2. The thief becomes even more interesting if you play, as I've been doing a lot lately, with minimal to no demi-humans. Because then some of the skills, because of course if you have demi-humans, right, like I said, they could be the scout because they can see in the dark and wear plate mail, right? Halflings have a crazy amount of ability to hide, so they could station themselves somewhere and hide. So, you know, the demi-humans do have that advantage on some things, although they still can't do what the thief can do. But anyways, that's kind of my off the cuff. I didn't want to write something up. I wanted to just throw some notes down and talk about it because I feel like being a thief is such an interesting thing, and it's not for everybody. But I guess this is the way I look at it. If somebody came to me and they were like, and I was like, what class do you want to play? And they're like, oh, I want to play a thief. And then they looked at the abilities and they were like, oh no, I don't want to play a thief. I don't. Those abilities are terrible. They shouldn't be playing a thief. Like, you should want to play a thief because you want to play a thief, and it's a cool class that you want to play. And the abilities are all secondary because you can role play through almost anything. The other thing I'm going to talk about too, just really briefly, because I just thought of it, is that the idea that, because I see people talk about this a lot too, like if they pick locks, and again, this is all how you want to run your game. One thing I will sometimes do is if it is a lock and they need to get through, which again, that just means I designed the dungeon wrong, then I won't allow them to fail in a sense. What I'll do is I'm not going to make them roll over and over, but they will roll. And if they roll, I will just evaluate how badly they failed on the roll and use that as an extender of how much time it took, or possibly use it as a modifier for a wandering monster check, so that basically they're going to get through because they need to, but there's a consequence. So that's one way to do it. Another way to think about this is that, again, if you're looking at original Dungeons & Dragons, like how things started, and even just the B part of the basic set where you're just dungeon crawling, it's like a mega dungeon. The idea that the thief can't try again until they reach the next level is not a problem, because in a mega dungeon situation, you're going to have lots of things to explore and you're going to be coming back and forth. So you'll come to that door again. It's not like oh, well, I can't do it till next level. I mean, I'll never be back here again. If you're going to a mega dungeon, there'll be parts of that dungeon that you'll be like, oh, hey, I haven't tried that door yet. Let me try it this level. And if they pick it, then they go through it. In fact, you could even, as a DM, put a door that has stairs that go down to like the 5th level of the dungeon right there at the top, right? So that eventually the thief will probably be able to pick it, or even if they did it right away, then they'll have a passage to go down deep really quickly. So these are all things that we can put in there that will make the thief's ability, again, the ability to do something above and beyond what everybody else can do in a quick manner. And again, and I should just make sure I'm clear here, is that, like I say about the open the locks, right? If there's a bunch of kobolds on the other side of the door, right, and the thief picks the lock, you should, and then they open the door, you should give them a chance of surprising the kobolds. If the fighter rams their shoulder into it or smashes their battle axe across the handle, clearly they can't surprise, right? Don't be that person that the thief picks the lock and they open it up and then they go, oh, you're surprised by the kobolds. It's like, they picked the lock. They're sneaking in. Give them that advantage. And that's why I say this video is really a lot more for the GMs. You really want to consider that your thief, that's how you make your thief shine, not by giving them higher numbers, but when they do succeed, make that success really worthwhile for them. So I hope that was helpful. I mean, let me know what you guys think about thieves. I'm curious because, like I said, a few people did write to me and say, oh, could you talk about thieves? So I'm curious what you think. And I will definitely put a link to that article. Go check that out in the description. It's really good. Like I said, I kind of didn't cover a lot of things he talked about because I wanted to read the article, because I'll just be repeating it because that's exactly how I feel. In any case, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. We do a lot of live actual plays here, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff. I'm currently running a Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerer's Hyperborea campaign. That's on Saturdays. It was on Friday. We moved it. It's on Saturdays. And I'm running Coriol's Third Horizon, which is like a sci-fi game, kind of Arabian Nights vibe. I run that on Monday nights. And I'm doing a one-on-one campaign in Dungeon Crawl Classics on Wednesdays. And actually my next video, which I'm going to record right after this, because I'm trying to get ahead a little bit because I know I've been missing videos, is going to be talking about that a little bit, because I've been having a lot of fun with the one-on-one, and I want to talk a little bit about running something one-on-one. So until next time, I'll see you.